Every Tuesday, you can get yourself a copy of our newspaper, iDiskiTimes, for absolutely free. Every shop right in the Gauteng province, you just go there, get yourself the paper. And on Fridays, the paper will be available across the nation on our website, iDiskiTimes.co.za. iDiskiTV powered by World Sports Betting, iDiskiTimes.co.za. Of course, a lot of people waking up in the morning on Sunday to find out that Steve Khompela has joined Swallows Football Club. That's a very significant move. We've been part of football for a very long time. So myself and all of you guys that are watching, we've been watching football for the past 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. It's not a new thing. We've seen Steve Khompela join Free State Stars. We've seen him Maritzburg United, Golden Arrows. We've seen him join a lot of football clubs. Even when at the time that he was at Kaizer Chiefs as well, that was a big deal at the time. I think he spent 3 years, went to the couple of finals. Unfortunately, he lost. He never won a trophy there. So the idea of Steve Khompela coaching or being announced as a coach is not a new thing for all of us. It just so happens that we were not expecting it when it happened at Mamelodi Sundowns. Although I have to say that we were starting to hear that Coach Rulani was looking for, starting to hear that people are saying Coach Rulani is looking for his own technical team as he was bottling his contract with Sundowns. I think they eventually signed a contract with Sundowns. One of the things that came out there was that in those negotiations he may have been looking for his own technical team. Do with that information what you will. We don't know whether or not that's true, but what we do know for sure now is that David Magashwa was seen taking pictures with Steve Khompela, and then it was officially announced. And then it's Musa Nyatama and Diteko Mutoto, a midfielder and a left back, assisting Steve Khompela, Bafana centre back and captain. So Vilakazi, what did you make of that when you saw it? What did it mean to you? Did you think about whether or not he's leaving because there's tension, or you thought this is a great thing, go back to coaching?
Mr. Giyo kunjani mfethu? Ngibulise wena, ngibulise Junior, ngibulise Justice, nginibulise namakhaya. Ngicela support njalo la iDiskiTV. Ngizobe njobe njalo ngijike futhi. Mr. Giyo, you know when they say when they smoke there's fire. Yeah. Mina I saw it coming long time ago. Ukuthi Coach Steve now he's not gonna stay longer. Why ngisho kanjalo? Mr. Kewo, I know Coach Steve, coach a national team. I understand him very well. He's a person that believes ukuthi if lento I black. He's not gonna try and justify the pitch black, orange black, what. No. He's gonna say it's black. And by looking at how things were going at Sundowns for me, that's why ngabona ukuthi he's not gonna stay lapha. He will go. The only person that maybe ngizibuza ngayo was Coach Manqoba, but Coach Steve, I knew ukuthi he's not gonna stay long.
Yeah. What did you make of the Swallows one? Because I think Swallows last season, if you think about what was happening to them 2 seasons ago in 2021. Or at the end of 2022, the season that ended in the year 2022, they won on the last day, or they drew, or something like that. I think they played Chiefs, and there were penalties scored. If I'm not mistaken, something like that, right? So they survived on the last day. Now, last season, by maybe December, January, they were part of that relegation grouping until Ernst Middendorp dumped them to go and relegate another team in Germany, which is ironic. Like, you leave these ones in relegation, you go to your own home country to relegate a 2nd division team or a 3rd division team there in Germany. And then fortunately, it was Musa Nyatama, and then at some point he's joined by Morgan Mamela. Excuse me. And then they survive. And they survive so convincingly. There was a point where PSL at the bottom looked like a Costina.
Yeah.
3 points, you are moving away from everyone.
Yeah.
And then if you lose a game, you are also in that relegation zone. So they looked comfortable, but by February, March, it was still looking like a relegation battle. So Steve Khompela, Diteko Mutoto, and Musa Nyatama. Those people, I think at some point, all of them would have been at Celtic at the same time or around the same time as well as a coaching team. What do you make of that? Is Swallows the right place to go?
Mr. Nkeo, that's... I always ask this question, that here's a coach. Look, I want people to understand me very well. Wrong. I've got nothing against to coach Steve Swallows. But my question is, why can't you give Nyatama a chance? Survival in the team. I don't want...
How many games? So I need to challenge you on that point of view. I know Junior was saying the same thing, and I think I saw a lot of people on social media saying the same things. I don't think Musa Nyatama coached more than 5 or 7 games. Maybe it was between 5 and 7 games in the league, right? He's in his 30s, 36 years old or 37 years old, right? Now, what's the riskier move? Take the 50-something-year-old guy who knows the league, or you take the guy that hasn't coached more than 10 games in the league. He didn't do a bad job, right, Musa Nyatama, so you're not going to punish him for that. But I don't think that they took an opportunity away from him. There will be so many other opportunities for him, even at Swallows. In case of the worst thing that could happen under Steve Komphela, and Steve Komphela leaving, Musa Nyatama could still be there, and they will still look at him as a person who belongs to Swallows. He didn't come with Steve, and then he will have another opportunity. But I think the rush, even for you, Tso, you're still a young coach in terms of coaching. You're in your 40s, right? If you make a mistake with your first, second PSL job, it's not the end of the world. You will get an opportunity to coach a PSL job. I thought when I looked at that, I was like, well, I don't feel bad for Coach Musa. I think that it's an opportunity for him to learn. The same thing happened to others one away. That thing, so it could kill you. Like that one job, the mistake that they made to give him a 3-year contract at the Chiefs, and he has a horrible first year, despite all of his advantages of red cards and penalties, he has a horrible first year. If he wasn't in an environment, Arthur, for example, where they like him, because they like him there, but if he was in any other environment, done, gone. You remember what happened to Rulani? Yeah. Let alone the fact that they roped him back in at Sundowns. Yeah. He goes to Pirates, he's young, he's in his 30s, right? At that time he was 32, 33. He goes to Pirates. It's probably like one of the worst things that could happen. You go and coach a big team, and then you make mistakes there, you are learning on the job. They are impatient. Within 6 months, you were here and rising as a young coach, and then boom, your stock goes lower, your value goes lower. So that could happen too. So I don't think it's the worst thing that happened. I'm so sorry, sir.
Mr. Nkeo, I'm worried with how most of teams are doing this, I would say, changing of coaches. I'll go back. You remember what happened to Black Leopard?
Yeah, Morgan.
Shivambo, they took over, they survived. Then they come preparing for the next season. Yeah. They were moved out. Yes. They put another coach. That coach took them down. Then again he has to try and survive the team. Yeah. Then you go to Chipa. Chipa is playing that game now. Yeah? Yes. So I'm worried. Yes, yeah. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about that we give them that opportunity. They save the team. Then when they save the team, now we look at them and say they're not good enough. Then we go and look for another coach again. That's why I'm saying I've got nothing. I love Coach Steve. I watch his videos every now and then. Even yesterday I was watching another video of him. I love him, Coach Steve, and I learn from him in terms of how you present yourself in talking. Even if when you raise your voice, but make sure that when you raise your voice, but the intention is not to fight, but to put the message across. Mr. Nkeo, that's my worry. I see your point, sir. That's my worry. That these young coaches, and then we expect them to come to the game and do well. Yeah. We need to start somewhere. So if that's what I'm saying. Yes, he coached, let's say, 7 games, Musa Nyatama, but he did well. So let's give him a season. Start, prepare your team. Let's see how far can you take us now this season. Then that's where he needs to learn. So now when we take them away from that hot seat, When are they going to learn?
Let me pose a I agree with your point. So I see what you're saying now. I see that part. Those two, my point and your point, can exist in the same space. I think, so here's my thought process. He coaches, because he's only coached 7 matches. He coaches next season. It's bad. It can happen to anyone. It's bad in the first 10 matches. Then it means you have to fire him because the new coach does not want to work with him. I think in this kind of an environment where he coaches with a new coach who coached Steve, he becomes an assistant, right? Because he was not an official coach. He was helping them. He was caretaking. If he's under Coach Steve, they walk this journey for 20 games. Even when they fire Coach Steve, they will not say, when I was in Steve, now. They might say, well, please continue with this. It's a good strategy to keep him longer there, learning under a very good coach, and not have the opportunity to be fired. Because if you think about Abokert Lynch's, and I agree with your point, the treatment of young coaches, Abokert Lynch's, about Dan Glade, they are given these jobs, but then once they get fired, it's like when then that team, Chipa United, hires a new coach, that new coach doesn't want these guys because he knows like as coaches. So whenever you give a young coach the job, especially when they're too young and too inexperienced, you run the risk of by the time you fire them, then you're not going to be able to use them within the system. But I get so this thing of mistreating young coaches is a huge problem in South African football. Let me maybe very quickly fast forward before we go to Junior. What do you envision for Swallows? They have coach Steve Khompela, they have Titeko Mototo, they have Musa Nyatama. What more do they need? What future do you see for them? Where can they end up in the league?
Good coaches. Coach Steve has been he's been around for years. We can even call him the Matala of the game. The way he's got the knowledge of this game. If you want to learn about the game, go to Coach Steve, sit down with him. By the time you leave.
Teammate, instructor yako.
Oh yes, instructor Sarama Litswaka. Yes, Coach Steve, he's been in this game for. That's what I'm saying for years. Once you must listen to him when he speaks Turkish.
I've heard, yeah.
No, that's why I'm saying when you've got that coach, you are equipped as a team. He's a good motivator. He's a good talker. He puts good words where you need those words, and he's very smart. And also he's also streetwise. He's not just a coach. That's why I'm like talking about Coach Steve. We can talk the whole day, the whole night. And Coach Nyatama, he showed for me, he did very well. And yes, I spoke to him last month. We had a chat, me and him, and I said to him, I wish you all the best. You did very well. And Mutoto has been assistant to Celtic, Royal Army. I think even Marisburg with John Matuka. So he's also been in the game for a while, and I think they're just gonna complement each other. And I like the way these 3 coaches they are. They've got that philosophy of playing. So I hope they'll complement each other very well.
Something, or they will survive.
Yeah, the thing is that you can have a good instructor, but if you don't have good material, then it's going to be a problem. I hope, maybe Coach Steve still have time to get players to reinforce the team, because I believe that team need some fresh legs.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you think about Steve Komphela, because we didn't expect that he would move, but we did hear Uguti Urulani wants his own technical team. We started to hear stuff like that in the last month or so. Uguti Urulani wants his own technical team. I don't know whether that has anything to do with Coach Steve Komphela moving, but I think it's crazy. I'm happy to see that Coach Steve is now back as a head coach at a club. I'm worried about Swallows because what players like Abo Vuyomere and Abo Steve, Abo Cheat Boy, they told us there were times where there were money problems. Swallows. I hope that they've solved those problems, and I hope that they're looking to recruit players, because Steve is a good coach, but unfortunately they still need to address some of the things that the older players, the senior players, were talking about as well. What was your reaction to what happened to Steve joining Swallows? Is it a good move to move away from Sundowns?
Shocking. It came as a shocking news, especially in Tusega Kulo. I see nothing wrong with technical team at Sundowns. Rulani, coach Rulani Gwena, big manager. Mangabe we force the move, and then it's a problem. Bengaboni anything wrong. He's a head coach. These are assistant for him. And knowledge. Sometimes you need to knowledge. Because I gap between Abu Steve and Rulani. They're different to what is head coach Rulani. Manje bamnikile task. So Steve, I think, is unfortunately South Africa coach under 20 national team, under 23 national team. He's more of a coordinator. He doesn't restrict players. Skillful players we allowed his team to play. It's just that as a head coach, truly speaking, since he's taken over, I'm not too sure what my resources were. Free Sisters being on my resources that much resources. He's never shown. Platinum Stars, yes, bonile kancane ukuthi yes Steve wathi, but under 20 mina ngimbonile. I work with him. Under 23 as well. Good coach. Especially mangathola is support as usual. Swallows, I think technical team, they made up their mind. Ngeba bring Steve ngeba bhatala ama player. Akude banganayo.
Well, you see, when I saw this move to Swallows, I thought about Coach Steve Komphela with Celtic. There was a period of 6 months where that guy was so strong for those players. And the players were telling us that, look, Steve Komphela is helping us, and I was like, I hope you're not going back to that Celtic situation, because I think the Celtic was a bad experience for Steve. He was doing well. He was coaching a good team at the time when we started to find out what Celtic bazoyithengisa because they are running out of money. So when I heard this news, I was like, damn, I hope whatever's happening at Swallows, and I'm not speculating, I'm speculating, but I don't know what's happening there. But the things that Abu Chisboy Mukwena said at some point, and other players as well, like Abu Vuyomera said, at some point, give us an idea about, okay, there must be problems there. I hope that they've solved those problems. I hope that it doesn't move to a situation where you are a good coach, but it's impossible for you to coach in an environment where there's no money, for example. I hope that those problems are no longer there anymore.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation in fact. Njoba ngisho ukuliva kuhamba ku-Sundowns. Profile ka-Steve Legrot kakhulu since abuya ku-Sundowns. Yet a good profile after junior national team. Also go waba ne-opportunity to coach Bafana, i-coaching ekho. Also as assistant Bafana as well. So ukuya ku-Downs khule kakhulu. Is one cup, league cups, is one leagues, is one cups. So profile high. I don't think now, especially with the space ago, somewhere being allow their job, which is gonna get paid, because his profile is grown. Pelankulego, you're only good according to really effect. You're only good as your last game. And no Steve Labu are corny environment pay manch. Nala kona manch. I'm sure they want to change things. Unfortunately for Umusa Nyatama, but with a promoted team, technical team, unfortunate situation. Truly speaking, they need experienced coach. True, they need experienced coach. So it's a good move for me to Steve Vilakazi space after the experience. He has learned a lot from Sundowns playing. Coach high profile players. You learn as a coach as well. Now my situation where was we Africa, Coach Steve is one league maintainer. We win maintaining and won couple many trophies. So learn from Umangoba Mniti, also from Urulani Mkwena. So from each other. Yeah, Uncle Lego, it's a good move for me, Gutai Lapayana, but Engwazi Omina, Ngabangawam. The profile is too big. I don't think it will allow the situation with Yenza Gelebienza, which is. Because the Swallows, truly speaking, is Cindy this year. Musa has done well. Yeah. And it's wrong not to pay players. I don't think a technical team is Swallows are nine. They need just somebody need to. But to Steve is experienced coach is gonna trust them good. You need to treat players special because team without players is nothing. And Inters was emphasized. I'm getting a span on Steve right now. Which national team player. So he will want his players to be happy so that they can push them. You understand? So i-technical team mhlambe iyabheka nokuthi ubani. This is Steve Komphela with the high profile. Makabatshela, they will sit back and say, yeah, khuluma Steve now. Nalabo uyakhona, chance we need to pay players. Because hayi ukuthi abanayo. Bengeke bathenga i-team banganayo imali. So Steve is going to change. Good move. It's going to change so many things, and it's going to, before the window period ivala, it's going to bring quality players as well. I believe quality experienced players and young players as well. I'm sure azoba exciting. Solos this year Nkululeko is going to compete. Definitely sure is going to compete with the experience here, Steve.
Yeah, I suppose, thank you so much for that. I suppose the first sign or signal for us to know where the Swallows are moving forward is when they start signing players. Who are those players? Are they buying them? Are they free agents? This will give us an indication of whether or not there is upward mobility or forward movement. Of course, Steve Komphela is a really good coach. Of course, is someone we think highly of in South African football. Someone will say he's never won a trophy. Granted, as a head coach, he's never won a trophy, but I think everyone in South Africa thinks very highly of him because he really understands his thing. He knows his game. iDiskiTV, Diski Times, was sports betting.